Welcome to Limerick Jazz Festival 2025. Let's maybe start from your performance last Thursday, wasn't it?
Yep.
Was it a debut in Limerick?
It was a debut in the Jazz Festival, which was, brilliant. We were delighted. But we'd actually played Dolan's and under Limerick Jazz back in 2012 when I was launching my debut album, The Secret of a Rose. So that's what, 12, 13 years ago?
Oh, amazing.
So nice to come back.
How did it feel? How did it feel to be back?
Different, actually. Yeah, different. I think as well because, when we were coming down for the debut, I remember we got held up. There was something on the road. So it was kind of panicked and we had to do a really fast sound check. And to be honest, that gig feels like a blur. You know what I mean? It was sort of a blur because of just being held up on the road,
Oh, okay.
So this was, we got down, it's fine. We had a nice time for our sound check. All that kind of thing was lovely. So, I felt more aware on stage as a result.
You look beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Emilie, may I ask you, what drew you to jazz as a form of expression?
So I've always loved all forms of music, and I was in choirs and everything as a child. I did ballet, loved classical music, and loved musicals, but I didn't see myself. Certainly growing up, I didn't kind of hear my own voice being sort of a typical classical voice or a typical musical voice or a typical any of that, And I think in Ireland, this is going back, so there was kind of, when I was a child, it was either you did classical or you did sort of Irish or folk. And I was kind of yeah. Anyway, so fast forward until I finished college and I finished college and I was in Chicago on a J1 summer visa, and I've put this all in a song. Friends took me to the Greenville Jazz Club and I heard Kurt Elling, and it was when he was doing his Live in Chicago, that album, with Jon Hendricks, and I just was blown away because he was singing some of the songs like musicals that I loved, but he was doing them his own way, and there was this beautiful space for piano and solos and bass and drums, and it was a revelation. And I thought, oh my gosh, if you can do music like that, then that's what I want to do,
So that was the beginning.
That's the beginning, and that was when I joined in the jam session afterwards. And Lawrence Hobgood helped me find the key to a song that I was going to sing, which was Secret Love. So I've written this all as a vocalist to John Coltrane solo and put it into my Shining Hour, which I perform now on my gig. So that was it. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Emilie, when I looked at your projects, you seem to incorporate all forms of art, like literature or visual arts, spoken word.
Yeah.
What inspires you to combine all these together?
Well, I love them all.
Obviously.
I love them all, so it's hard to, I suppose that's it. I love them all, and I've kind of done them all. Again, as a child, we started with Irish dancing, went on to ballet, which I've kept up, still do it. Not as much as I used to, because one's older and one's body is a little bit resistant. But I've also always drawn and painted and written. So I think for me, it's kind of natural that they get woven together. And I think perhaps as well, maybe when you're younger, if I look back 10, 15 years ago, you're sort of more conscious of defining yourself as a specific thing. And I think now, maybe as I'm kind of getting older in arts, I'm less fussy about doing that. I'm kind of going, these are the things that I do, and people can kind of take it or leave it as they like, and I suppose I feel like jazz is a very, very welcoming art form. It loves to take in influences from all over, and express them in that way. And I think jazz is really welcoming to that. Yeah. So, whether it is literature or different, Joni Mitchell songs or whatever, I think jazz seems to seems to love including that. So,
and the result is magical and special.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
It is. Could you tell us about solid space sound?
Oh, yeah.
Your audio described sensory-rich creative work.
Yeah.
It is designed for blind and visually impaired people or the audiences.
Yeah.
But seems to connect with everyone.
Yeah.
How did this process come about? And just tell us about that.
Yeah.
Like, what does it involve?
Well, I think I had a sort of a bit of an awakening about 10 years ago, a little more than that, when, you know, I guess it's been a road for me to sort of accept or speak openly about my disability. So I'm visually impaired, and I have an autoimmune condition as well. But that's a road. But I suppose what I began to sort of see was that in some ways I was downplaying that, or what do people say, passing, like not acknowledging it, because I was afraid it would become a thing that people would then treat me differently, or, you know, you might be excluded because or something. So, but I realized if I don't kind of integrate that, then like that's being a bit dishonest, and it's not opening the door for other disabled people to come after me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that kind of was the impetus for me to start being more honest about it. And then in becoming more honest, I just was like, okay, well, where are other disabled people in the arts or in the audiences? And of course, there's always invisible disabilities.
Yeah.
But I just was like, it's not really, like with all of our so-called awareness, like it's not really increasing. And it's still really difficult for people. So I suppose with solid space sound, that's specifically, well, it's very adaptable, sort of site specific or object specific. So, you know, current kind of approaches to access are very audio description based, say. And usually,
it makes it natural, all those sounds around, right? Yeah.
The books are growling. Anyway,
that's what we love.
So what was I going to say?
Yeah, I think you've just replied to my next question, because I wanted to ask you about Dada, about disabled artists, disabled academics, your advocacy campaign.
Yeah, so that's a lot. Okay, so in a way, the solid space sound is sort of about increasing general accessibility in the arts, sort of for audiences and participants. And then the Dada is more about artists itself.
Yeah.
So Dada came about again kind of during COVID because, well, like one of the big barriers in Ireland at the moment is that is the sort of the very precarious entitlement to disability supports. So if a person, you know, works, then their entitlement to state support is decreased. And like they have, well, a study, research done in 2019 proved that disability costs an additional 8,000 to 12,000 a year, and that was before the cost of living. So if you reduce a person's entitlement to, you know, disability benefit or whatever, I don't call it benefit, I call it support, because it's not a benefit. But so if you reduce it, I'm like, how can somebody participate in the arts? How can a person who has a disability like build up their careers? Because all arts and developing your craft, it costs money, you know, and making art costs money. So if you're going to put money into your work, but at the same time have the money taken away from your disability support, like how can you do it? And also, how can disabled people afford to come to art if as soon as they work a little bit, the cost is transferred back, you know? So there's a cost problem that leaves people, really makes it very difficult for people to develop their careers in arts. Like if somebody wins an award, their disability allowance is taken off them. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So that means the award is actually paying for the disability, not the art. Yeah. You know, and we saw this happen with basic income. So it really has been about campaigning for you know, to be able to keep the medical card, for example, and the financial support to pay for the additional cost of having a disability. And then with solid space sound, that's been about, to go back to that, so as a visually impaired person, coming into new spaces, they're often quite challenging. And so this project is a musical, it's like sounding a building, a musical, rhythmical, movement-based, lyrics-based approach to bringing people into a building. So we're literally playing it Do you know what I mean? And it's participative. And it's non-vision based. So that's somebody who comes in, say, to the gallery, or I did it also with children in the Arc Cultural Centre in Temple Bar, and I'm presently working on it with the project. So those children will have a memory of coming in and singing and moving, rolling around, like beating rhythms off the walls. Do you know, all this kind of interactive stuff that's not dependent on vision. So they get to have an imagination of the space on their terms. So important, you know. Yeah. So because I don't really, I don't kind of like this thing where, disabled people are sort of put on a bus and then brought in and then, brought straight into, and not really having their own individual experience of a space. Because the space is as much as what happens in them is what's special about art. It's the whole experience. Sure. So, yeah.
What's next for Emilie? That's a very tough question, isn't it?
So,
we spoke a little bit. Yeah.
This is my painting on a postcard of In Walked Pete. So this is what we performed actually in Limerick Jazz. It's my response to the recent, exhibition in the National Gallery of modern artist Pete Mondrian's work. And so the next few months will see me release this. So what I'll be doing is releasing singles and then releasing the album in spring. And this is sort of an imagination of me coming into his studio. And it's sort of tongue-in-cheek because he, and that's, my version of Pete walking in the door. So that's why it's called In Walk Pete. But he didn't have chairs in his studio. He didn't like to have chairs because he didn't really like people sitting down, and he wanted to keep working. And also, he was very sparse, straight lines. He doesn't use green, so I'm wearing a green dress, which is again kind of a little bit provocative. And obviously, as a woman, I'm all curves, so it's all a little, and I've curly hair, so it's kind of a little provocative of his aesthetic of geometric straight lines. So that's what's coming up. That album.
Emilie, thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure having you here in Limerick.
It's been brilliant.
And thank you
I've been treated so well, and we had such a lovely time on stage, and the audience was beautiful. The sound was amazing. Thank you very much to your sound engineer. Yeah, it's such a treat when you do a gig and the sound is it's good. It's such you can so relax and just let the music out, so thank you.
Thank you for your beautiful performance, and thank you for reminding us of the importance of the real inclusion.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay.